Are going to be getting plenty of vitamin D as well, with the sun shining and 16 degrees, and that means the track is going to be awfully cut up by the time the women start this afternoon.
Absolutely, 16. We had highs of 15 yesterday, and well, all week the narrative being driven around just how challenging the course conditions are out there around the loop today. But one of the things that we saw particularly a lot yesterday was how it is so changeable across the course as a whole, and particular challenge for the Wax Techs today.
Yeah, because there's some sections of track that is in the shade and some that are in the sun, and it's worth investigating why that makes such a big difference. But the start list.
Yep, so France with one change from the quartet that took silver at the World Championships, and it's Oscar Lombardo who comes in. Scott, you called that yesterday, that change?
Yeah, and I think it's a difficult one, especially with Emilien Jacquelin being unwell, so it's hard to know exactly what the reasoning is, but Lombardo being a fantastic choice, especially having skied so well and produced such a fantastic 11th place, or 11th fastest performance in the pursuit.
Absolutely, and well, France today, barring disqualification and a Norwegian victory, those things need to happen at the same time. France will win their first relay Crystal Globe since 2012. They've been perfect so far and boast a really impressive 360 points. Scott, it feels like there's been a real resurgence in the depth of this French team as well. 6 athletes used this season, including Oscar Lombardo today. On paper, it doesn't look like too much of a big difference in terms of the French depth since the 5 athletes used for the victory in 2012, but it is a big step forward.
There are so many in the French team that they could draw on to produce a fantastic result here, and that's testament to their amazing development that they have. The French, I would say, now have the best development in the world, and I think that we could actually take the place. There's some shorts over there from the Czechian local, but I think you could really interchange 6 different athletes into the French team and still expect a winning team.
They are up against a very strong Norwegian team today, though, Scott, and one that are newly crowned world champions. It's not too dissimilar. We saw, obviously, when Norway were dominating the relays on the World Cup. They weren't winning at the World Championships this time round. It's France who are dominating, and Norway who won the World Championships. Martin Oldal, the change, replacing Endre Stromsheim. This is a very, very strong Norwegian team.
For sure, and definitely the favourites for today, with Oldal there starting for the Norwegians. And I'm so excited to see how he's going to evolve on, or how he is going to adapt his strategy, given the fact that he's such a fast shooter, particularly in the stand. But head-to-head battles can sometimes lead people to shoot just a little bit too fast.
Well, the Swedes have been so consistent with their quartet this season. Victor Blant, Jesper Neely, Martin Ponsalom and Sebastian Samuelsson, and of course their anchor, fresh off his first win of the season in the pursuit. Germany taking a really strong bronze medal at the World Championships, and it's this man in your picture now, David Zobel, who replaces Danilo Rietmuller in the team, who took bronze, and Czechia and Thomas Mikiska with his legs out today.
Of course, and why would you not? If you had the chance to race in shorts today, 16 degrees, this is pretty much the height of Scottish summer, and I'd be racing in my shorts, that's for sure.
2 DNSs to tell you about quickly. The United States and Estonia not on the start line today, so we proceed with 19 teams and all poised and ready to go here in Nove Mesto. The final relay of the season, and barring a disaster, France will lift the Crystal Globe in the relay for the first time since 2012.
And so fascinating in these races, the psychological dynamic that's at play is one of the most fierce amongst all the different races that we have in biathlon, because you're not just letting yourself down if something goes wrong, but your teammates, and it can lead to a lot of penalty loops.
Emilien Claude leading France out. Included in the relay team in Ruhpolding after securing his first World Cup podium, finishing second in the individual. And then, of course, part of the quartet that took silver in Lenzerheide.
It'll be good for Emilien Jacquelin to go and get some rest and recovery after he's had some pretty brutal days of racing. But at least coming into the final races of the season, he will have the positivity of that victory in the sprint.
Martin Uldal with the distinctive pink gloves, pink poles, alongside Emilien Claude. And no surprise to see Slovenia up just tucked in behind Norway, and of course Victor Blunt as well of Sweden. Scott, looking at Sweden's team, the consistency that they've had on the World Cup this season, they haven't been off the podium. You can expect that with the boosts they've had over the course of the last few days as a team on the whole, and of course following on from the end of the World Championships, they could be in a good position to do something special here. Yeah, if you take a look at the Swedish average results, that's from the sprint. Their average place was 16th in the sprint and 13.25 in the pursuit, just in terms of how fast they covered that pursuit competition, not their result in it, because obviously that carries on from the sprint. But that puts them, just on paper alone, in second place as my favourite team today behind the Norwegians. And it is Martin Uldal. What a season he's had, stepping up when required, making the leap up from the IBU Cup where he started the season, and really just owning his position within this Norwegian team. It's the first time though this season that he's been included in the relay.
Big pressure moment, and it will be really interesting to see how he handles it, especially in the standing shooting. His results are 76% hit rate in the stand, which is quite low, but he shoots well above that. You would expect him to be getting 100% given how quickly he gets to the first target. I suspect his coaches would have briefed him to just take it easy and focus on his process today, and it's not all about getting the target down first.
And in terms of this being a move looking forward as well, of course, we saw Endre Stomsheim join the relay quartet in Lenzerheide and, of course, take that gold medal, which then, you have to say, in quite some way would have inspired him on to take the individual gold medal in the mass start the next day. Looking forward to a season next season where we don't have Tarjei Bø, we don't have Johannes Tingesbø. How much is this inclusion of Martin Uldal just sort of flooding him early and getting him prepared for that position that he will likely have to take next season?
Well, yes, this doesn't appear to be the highest stakes, as you mentioned earlier about the French being in such a strong position in the relay, and it allows for a little bit of risk in the later stages of the season where you're not trying to test your athletes out to see whether they'll make the World Championships team. Uldal now the perfect athlete to enter into this relay today, and I suspect with the likes of Isak Frey of Norway and coming back into the scene, those places on the World Cup will easily be replaced.
Absolutely, Isak Frey taking the Crystal Globe in the IBU Cup, and there's so much Norwegian talent down on the IBU Cup. It was something that was mentioned a few times in Johannes Tingesbø's retirement speech, that he wanted to hand over the baton to those coming up through the IBU Cup, and particularly this season as well. We've seen some big names drop down to the second tier of biathlon racing, just owing to just how well the likes of Martin Uldal are doing when they step up.
Yeah, it's so sad to not see Christiansen in this lineup, and having not seen him for so long over the course of this season, he's been one of the favourites and one of the most reliable anchors. But now he'll be watching those youngsters rising up the ranks, wondering if it's possible for him to claw back some of those places.
Well, Florent Claude joining his younger brother right at the front. He's the man from Belgium. And only of the Claude brothers to compete in the black, red and yellow of Belgium will lead this train of athletes into the range for the first time. 2 shooting stages per athlete, 1 prone, 1 standing, and of course we'll start with the prone. athletes shooting on their bib number. And well, Scott, we haven't seen too many shots of the range over the course of this week so far, but just listening into some of the conversations during zeroing, it's certainly a bit more windy today than we've had over the course of the last few.
Take a look at the biathletes looking up at the wind flags, just casting a glance and just reflecting on whether the conditions are the same or different than they were when they did the zero. Emilia and Claude there just taking a little bit extra time to watch those flags.
Norway and Martin Oldal starting with a miss. It's 2 misses for Claude of Belgium. Lithuania with 2 misses as well. Italy are away and clean, as are Sweden. France, Norway left behind, as are Germany. Czechia away, so is Switzerland, Austria, while so many are having to dip into the extra rounds.
It's not a disaster from many so far. Poland arguably having a bit of trouble there and requiring now to get the remaining shots. But Romania also, they go clear. Unfortunately for Canada though, they're having a nightmare. 2 penalty loops already, and that could add up to 1 more if they do not get this next shot.
Florent Claude, who led everyone into the range, having to use all 3 of the extra rounds, but he avoids the penalty loop for Belgium.
It's a good start for the Swedes, and that's setting them up for what could be a great day. Oldal, he only used 1 spare, cost him some 7.5 seconds. A spare taking on average around about 7 to 10 seconds to use. It's hard to say exactly, it's different for each athlete.
It is a really interesting point as well, isn't it, Scott? Because we so regularly look at the spares and go, get out of jail card times 3. But actually, with the time it takes to load it, if you are having to use those extra rounds repeatedly, it can be so costly.
Absolutely. And also it's the flustering effect it has, because you become more anxious as those moments go by, knowing that the clock is ticking and it feels so wasted. I should have hit the targets and now this is wasted time. All of that adding to the pressure, and the importance in those moments is just to focus on the breathing routine and the process of getting the spare round slotted into the chamber.
So Victor Brandt leading the charge here and really pushing the pace as Martin Oldal tries to reconnect with the trio ahead of him. Daniele Capellari of Italy clean through the first stage, but just slightly off the pace. But Czechia and Nikiska, the fans particularly who are packing out this climb here, will love to see him in this silver medal position as things stand.
There's only 2 teams in this lineup whose chances of, as a team, going into the penalty loop are less than 50%. It blows my mind that in a biathlon race where they have extra rounds, that the national teams, these highest level performers, end up on the penalty loop very regularly, with France, 14 out of the last 32 relays, one of their athletes at least once going around the loop.
And I believe that record is even slightly worse for Norway, isn't it? Who we so regularly see having to veer off to the left.
Yeah, for sure. Norway with 15, and would you believe it, Sweden, 21 out of 32 relay races, somebody on their team went around the penalty loop. And that is crazy. 16 shots to hit 10 targets. And that really just demonstrates how much psychological pressure there is on the biathletes in a relay, and what effect that psychological pressure has on their performance.
Which is a really interesting point to lead on through, particularly as they come around this very icy corner indeed, with Sweden in the lead. So regularly it's been the role of Sebastian Samuelsson to have to drag the team up from despair, with the likes of Jesper Nalin, Martin Ponsaloma, even Victor Brandt having to make visits to the penalty loop. This is a really solid start for Sweden, and when you look at the confidence that Sebastian Samuelsson will be carrying on from yesterday, if Jesper Nalin, Victor Brandt, who's on this first leg, and Martin Ponsaloma can keep the form that they showed in the pursuit in particular, this is a Swedish team that could really get back to challenging for the titles again.
I'm going to say it now, I think Sweden can win today. It certainly is within the realm of possibility, as Oldal, he hunts to the front. Yes, the Norwegians have the highest rated team on every single metric, but I think the Swedes have the momentum. And with Nalin doing a fantastic 6th place in the sprint, he's arguably one of the weaker legs as well as Brandt, but weaker relative term. They're still phenomenal athletes performing at a very high level.
And of course, Martin Ponsaloma, his best performances this season, particularly up until the World Championships, were all in the relay. Some of his individual legs were brilliant. It was just then when he was translating that to the solo events, it wasn't particularly working. But of course, himself on a better trajectory now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's now, we discussed it earlier, but we got caught off by the graphics. We were talking about the waxing and the difference that it makes on the skis as to whether they're in the sun or the shade. And you saw there that shaded section of track. The wax technicians have to weigh up where is the best place to try and get the fastest ski conditions. And it's difficult because a lot of this track is in the sun, but so much of the downhills are in the shade.
So Martin Oldal and Victor Brandt coming over the crest of the hill, and the chase behind Germany and Poland trying to reconnect with this group.
It's a difficult one for Germany. They are statistically very, very low down on just in terms of their performance here at this Nove Mesto, in terms of their ability and their average results as a team in the sprint and the pursuit. And I can't imagine them having a wonderful day today, but wouldn't it be great to see them replicate their World Championships performance?
So Germany and Switzerland it is, with David Zobel and Sebastian Stolder, and then Poland, Bulgaria further back. Right at the back, Logan Pletz, of course, having a tough day, having to make visits to the penalty loop along with the Polish team as well.
Such a high pressure moment now as they come in together for the stand. They can hear each other breathing, they can hear the first shot go down, and just a reminder that it should be them. Oldal, of course, first to get the shot down and stand.
Miss for Sweden though, and Victor Brandt. Czechia starting well, another miss for Sweden, a miss for France. Norway away with Martin Oldal.
That is just fantastic shooting from the Norwegian. Yes, his first shot was rapid, but the rest were controlled and there was a lovely even pace between shots.
A penalty loop for Sweden, and that is not what they need at all. Can they limit it to just one? Germany. Well, it will be at least one penalty loop for Germany, and it could get a whole lot worse. France are away, 2 extra rounds used. One last bullet for Victor Brandt, and he limits it to just one penalty loop. Italy off to the penalty loop as well. Germany need to be perfect to limit it to just one. Switzerland as well. Well, Scott, so many struggling in the stand.
The wind conditions are hard, but I suspect it's not the wind that's causing this many mistakes, but in actual fact, it's the conditions on the skis. They're having to stay with each other at unnaturally fast paces, some of them, who would prefer or naturally be going a lot slower, coming into the range, and as we saw with Victor Brandt, the way he was squatting down, trying to alleviate some of the shaking in his legs.
That someone who just soared through was Martin Oldal.
It was easy. Well, that edge shot wasn't easy actually. Now we zoom into the details. Only just getting the target down.
So Martin Oldal and Thomas Nikiska with just one extra round used across the 2 shooting stages. And Claude with 3. He occupies 3rd place with France at the moment, 20.8 seconds down. But Martin Oldal, an impressive first leg. Well, for the first time in this Norwegian relay team, and there's plenty of distance. Look at that, Scott, is only now does the Czech athlete emerge from the tunnel.
Oh man, that's such a good performance from Oldal. And if you cast your memory back to when Johannes Tingnes Bø first raced in the relay, I believe it was in Ruhpolding, and ended up on the penalty loop, and the older brother said, hey, it happens to us all at some point, but for Oldal, it's not happening today.
Todev of Bulgaria having a brilliant start. wearing bib 15. He's up into fourth with just 2 extra rounds used, 37.5 seconds off the pace of Martin Uldal. And then Otto and Vinius emerging from the tunnel as well. A really solid first leg for him after recovering from illness. He's put Finland into fifth. He's being pursued by Victor Brandt. Tshchenko as well of Ukraine. Foreman of Lithuania, Birkentals.
Stalder there from Switzerland. He's having a really fast lap, actually skiing faster than Uldal and Emilian Claude. Claude closing a second on Uldal up until this point. So the Swiss biathlete, really, he is in great form and another big name that we can expect to do well in the future, but skiing particularly well in this last lap despite those horrible conditions.
Starting bib number 11, Sebastian Stalder in Switzerland. And now just behind Finland in sixth. But Martin Uldal with plenty of distance between him and the chase group. Czechia and France, the closest together, with then Todev of Bulgaria just behind them.
And Uldal is just looking so good technically. I'd say you can see his hips dropping back just a little bit, something that over the years you can expect the Norwegian team to iron out somewhat from his technique, as Tarjei Bø is preparing to have a lovely bit of a lead there.
Yep, the final relay that Tarjei Bø will compete in on the World Cup circuit, as for his brother as well. And Martin Uldal certainly trying his best and doing a brilliant job to put Norway in pole position.
Yeah, and I do think that there is going to be some extra pressure now on the Norwegians. The last, such a significant 2 words, the last time that they get to come out, they want to do themselves and their country proud, and everyone will talk about it as the last. Therefore, I think a little bit of additional pressure on the Bø brothers to do well today, and that could negatively impact their performance.
I think particularly when you look at someone like Martin Uldal, who comes towards Exchange 1, who has grown up inspired by Tarjei Bø and of course Johannes Dingesbo. He will have wanted to give them the best opportunity to go out on a high, and he has more than done that. It's at 6.6 kilometres, the gap growing to 20 seconds plus as Tarjei Bø starts to push away and is tagged by Martin Uldal. Oscar Lombardo pulls in for France. Slavonic over his shoulder, waiting for the arrival of his teammate as Lombardo flies out of the blocks, intent on closing the gap to Tarjei Bø.
It's so cool to see the Czechian biathletes up there in third place so far, and you really hear the roaring of the crowd. They'll be thrilled with that performance. Perhaps everyone should have been wearing shorts today.
Todev doing a brilliant job on the first leg for Bulgaria. Anton Sinapov taking up the charge for bib number 15. Switzerland preparing to hand over. Sebastian Stalder has done his job.
Only losing 4 seconds to the Norwegian over the course of that lap, but Victor Brandt, despite a penalty loop, he's doing very well to come over the line, just, well, losing 6 seconds to the Norwegian on the last leg.
Doing well to stay on his feet there as well, as he nearly collapses into the back of Otto and Vinius, who handed Finland over in 7th. Belgium coming through Exchange 1 in 8th, Ukraine 9 and Slovenia 10. That rounds out the top 10 as we see the ever-revolving door of the exchange, particularly this first exchange, can get incredibly busy and potential for athletes to get tangled, but clear and well away is Tarjei Bø.
And we were discussing the surprise selection of Zöbel, with Reitmüller being deprived of a start for Germany today, and that, oh, excuse me, not Reitmüller, I've got my names mixed up, but just surprising nevertheless, and not having the highest performance in the sprint or pursuit competitions, and having not raced the relay in the World Championships.
No, you were right. It is Danilo Riekmuller who has been replaced by David Zorbel, with Riekmuller missing more in the pursuit. There wasn't a huge amount between them in terms of time, something that you looked at, Scott, and the argument maybe on the other side that with 6 missed by Danilo Riekmuller, they wanted to give Germany the best opportunity of avoiding the penalty loop.
Yeah, absolutely. But nevertheless, the pursuit time, Riekmuller was 39th in the pursuit. That's just how fast they did it in the race. Not the position they crossed, but the pursuit itself. And that was ahead of Zorbel, despite the fact that he had 3 extra penalty loops. That's 450 meters extra. So I suspect there's some other reason Riekmuller wasn't selected aside from that fact, because he was skiing fantastically relative to Zorbel.
Yeah, and Germany, who were bib number 4, find themselves in 15th after exchange 1 visit to the penalty loop, 4 spares used, and just inside 90 seconds behind the time of the Norwegians.
It's great to see Bulgaria doing so well. They've had some fantastic results, particularly at the junior women's level. They have some talented athletes with Kristeva coming and Dimitrova coming up and performing well there.
And here is the chase back, led by Jesper Neiling. Carlos Seppala tucked in behind Joshua Burkhalter of Switzerland. Jakov Fat trying to drag Slovenia back up into contention here. And also Jacques on this leg for Italy. Italy with 1 visit to the penalty loop, finding themselves just ahead of Germany and Philipp Navlat.
So already 1/5 of the teams have entered the penalty loop, just indicating a slightly above average performance, given the fact that over 50% of the teams in most relays end up on the penalty loop at some point. Quite astonishing statistics, really.
And Talierberg all by himself at the front of the field through 9.1 kilometres.
He makes it look so easy.
Yeah, and you can hear the difference, can't you, when he's going over that softer snow and then the transition onto the more icy snow in the shade.
Well, the salting can only do so much. That top layer of snow is not impenetrable and becomes loosened up, as you can see the ski cutting through it. And therefore, it's so important for the wax technicians to find structures that are best suited to the conditions, and the structure being a pattern that's pressed into the base of the ski that enables the water, because of course even when it's -10, your ski, the friction creates a layer of water underneath the plastic, and that water needs to be flushed out somehow, and the pattern underneath the ski is exactly how that is done.
After a good start to his lap, Anton Sinakov of Bulgaria now losing time. He's 50.6 seconds back behind Talia Bo. Everyone behind Bo actually getting further back as the Norwegian turns the screw and pushes the pace. He's coming into his first of 2 shoots. As you can see those on leg 3 warming up in the pen alongside the range.
And I think Tarja Bø, at least by my perception, is the most popular biathlete. He has been around for what seems like forever, and he's loved by so many fans from everywhere, drawing pictures of him, quite comical ones, and he's always been on the right side of any drama, and just such a staple mark for the Norwegian.
Now there's a shot I'm sure we'll see plenty more of during this relay as the Czech host venue pay their tribute to the Bø brothers, and it's the elder Tallier who comes in for his first shoot in the prone position.
And the wind was 9 kilometers an hour, pointing upwards as the graphic appears, and now it's changed direction, 14 kilometers, 9 kilometers, 5. It's really changeable conditions, and that will significantly impact this shoot. Lovely, accurate shooting so far. The wind just climbing slightly there, but all the shots landing in a similar spot. And
clean
wonderful
and away.
accuracy.
Yep, really nice from Talio Bo, as only now does Oscar Lombardo prepare to take his first shot.
Seems like big pressure now for the Frenchman, but he's handling it really well, and he gets 5 out of 5. Lombardo now will be relieved that half of the job is done.
Koenig only once having to drop into the extra rounds. He'll hope if he can hit this, and he can't. An opportunity for Bulgaria, Sweden and Finland to catch up here. And one last chance to keep Czechia out of the penalty loop. And it's a hit, and he can finally be on his way.
It's not good start for Sweden either. They've got 2 misses and require, well, they have 3 spares with which to get them, having now just got 1 down. Finland, they go 5 for 5, and Switzerland doing well also.
Yep, Austria away 5 for 5.
But Sweden, one of my favourites now, are for the second time in this race. They're on the penalty loop, and it seems like just failing for Jesper Nelin to adapt to the wind conditions, which are blustery, but had almost 0 impact on Talio Bo. His rounds all falling within the diameter of a penny. And now is probably a good opportunity for me to retract my prediction that the Swedes will be atop the podium today.
We've seen them come back before from really far down the order, I'm sure further than this, but already 2 penalty loops. They find themselves in 13th after shooting 3. And particularly with what we've spoken about, Scott, this week has been incredibly draining, the physicality of this course on the athletes' bodies. And would it be too much based off how much he gave yesterday to expect Sebastian Samuelsson for the 5th time this season to drag Sweden up to the podium?
He would need to see a lot of those big names miss, which is still possible. Of course, 50-50 per team essentially, as to whether they will encounter a penalty loop in this race so far. So everybody above Sweden who has not yet had a penalty loop, which is some 9 teams, and half of those yet to endure a penalty loop at some point, if the stats are anything to go by.
For Germany climbing their way up to 9th, they're of course the other team who's appeared on the podium this season. It would be so good in the last relay though, Scott, to see one of the nations who are yet to stand on the podium this season have their opportunity today, and it is Vítězslav Hornig of Czechia who on her home snow has Czechia in 3rd. Telo Sepa though just 11 seconds behind him for Finland. Jakov Fak just slightly further back, Joska Burkhalter, Thierry Longer, all within striking distance of that bronze medal.
Yeah, and the Italian team, you can see there with Giacomel going leg 2, which is not the main leg, shall we say, for relays traditionally. You often expect the slowest skier or least good performer to go leg 2. Not always the case. Sometimes there's tactical differences, but all of his teammates in the sprint finished either in the top 50, 45, 44, 43. So not the best Italian team being put on the line today.
No, plenty of questions around the Italian team in the relays this season, of course, performing so well for the last few seasons, but this season just haven't been able to make things click at all, and this a very changed quartet to what we've seen this season, and of course last season as well. They tend to be so consistent with their choices, as Talio Bo now through 11.6 kilometres, and Oscar Lombardo at 10.8. He was 23.3 seconds, and he continues to lose time on the Norwegian, who is just flying around this course, Scott.
Yeah, and it's Lombardo, we know, is in very good shape. He had one of the fastest ski times in the pursuit, a top 15 on that occasion, and the 11th fastest overall time just in the pursuit. So we know he's in great shape and is having to contend with the nerves of being on the French team for the relay for the first time.
Holland coming through 53.6 seconds, and Telo Seppala is closing the gap. Just taking a look at the Finnish team, they'll be anchored by Olli Hiiben-Salo, who had that incredible performance to finish 4th at the World Championships in the individual. Aki Lehtinen going next in just his 3rd race of World Cup race of the season.
Interesting to see Germany all the way down in 8th behind the Italians. They've both had a penalty loop and 5 spares for the Germans, but Navrat of Germany is going to want to get his team up the order. It's still possible for Germany to make a podium today.
Yeah, they have been climbing. They were down in 15th at Exchange 1, and so it's been a really good climb so far for Philipp Navrat. As coming into shooting 4 is Talia Bo.
Again, the wind very similar to last time, except for you can see the graphic at the left. 23 kilometers an hour being registered by the wind gauge. So that could have a significant impact if those blustery conditions sustain throughout the course of this stand shoot. See, he's had to resettle there. It looks very shaky. The end of his rifle, an edge shot low left, followed by a miss low right. 2 misses in quick succession. Tarja Bø trying to shoot just a little bit too fast, despite unsettled conditions, both by the wind and in his body. Not a stable barrel. Look at the shaking there. Tarja Bø is in trouble. He needs to rebreathe, resettle. Lombardo, on the other hand, doing very well. 4 out of 4. And now Lombardo, an opportunity to close the gap. He goes 5 for 5. No spares required. And is now right on the heels of Tarja Bø.
And that's 26 seconds that has been lost by Tarja Bø. There and thereabouts. It is a 3.9 second gap as they leave shooting 2. Czechia with 3 misses. Finland with an opportunity to go into the bronze medal position, and it's taken perfectly by Telo Seppala.
Wow, isn't that good shooting in those windy conditions? Slovenia with Fak goes 5 for 5 as well. So that's really fantastic, and it looks like Belgium next to threaten a 5 out of 5. They get it.
And Czechia, at least once, they will go around the penalty loop.
And now bending down to pick up a dropped round as Jesper Nelin missing his 2nd shot in his sequence of 5 and make that 3 misses for Jesper Nelin. We can certainly say Sweden are out of the picture now.
Simon Adra away well, plenty of experience shining through there for the Austrian. As Gies left standing as well, Scott. You can see a very similar movement as well, at least twice around the penalty loop now, and he needs to be perfect with this final shot.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one now for Ponsaloma and Samuelson. They're now Jesper Nelin adding up to a fall as he comes off the mat.
3 misses, or 3 times around the penalty loop, and taking a tumble on his way out away from the mat as well. It's just all fallen apart for Sweden, who, looking at the stats, could have really been on for something special today, but in a very similar manner to that of Martin Ådahl, when we're praising the athletes who are stepping up into the places of those who took medals at the World Championships. A very good day in the office once again for Oscar Lombardo.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a great performance from the youngsters coming into the biggest teams.
Look at this though, he has been dropped. The gap closed. There was an opportunity, but in terms of the ski speed, he can't match Tarja Bø. It was 3.9 seconds when they left shooting 4 at 13.3. It's now 11.9. And out of nowhere, here's Tommaso Giacomel dragging Italy now into 3rd. Telo Seppala is just up behind. Jakob Fak in 5th, and then Germany and Philipp Navrat. Well, in terms of looking at the strength of the team, Scott, at this point, with one prediction already gone amiss from you today. You want to have an opportunity to just readjust your predictions, looking at that Germany. Who do you think out of the three behind Giacomello in the best position to take a podium, as the Latvian team here have had to go over and take some extra poles? We completely missed that, but seemingly either a fall or some equipment error.
Sweden. No, I think Sweden are very much out of the picture now, and Ponsaloma, Samuelsson, they may just decide to not cruise, but they can relax on their way round. I think Germany have not got much pressure on their shoulders, but with Finland up near the top in fourth place right now, I would say this is a good day for some outsider nations to feature, and it will be interesting to see whether those wearing bib number 10 with Leitinen and Hiddensalo, two good last legs for Finland, I think they might be able to maintain their fourth place or at least come in the top 6 today.
Well, despite really struggling in that standing shoot, Talia Boat with a growing advantage on France and Oscar Lombardo. It will be over 16 seconds, 16.8 is the gap back to the young Frenchman.
Wow, hasn't that gap opened up? Talia Boat proving to be in great shape, but he also had some more time to rest on the range, and that is significant. These biathletes recovered so quickly, you would not believe it, for their pulse to drop down. So every additional second on the mat is additional seconds of recovery. So Talia Boat taking full advantage of that, now reclaiming some of those seconds to Lombardo of France.
Well, job done for Talia Boat in the final World Cup relay of his career. Urged on towards the exchange where Sturla Holmlaglide is waiting. A big final lap from Tommaso Giacomelli. He's just flying, isn't he? Even if this is just being used as a training exercise, he's doing absolutely everything to try and put Italy in the best position.
Well, even just positioning himself in second is, over to Norway, the handover there.
Sturla Holmlaglide picks up, and it is France who will take on the next leg with Fabien Claude. And you can see Tommaso Giacomel trying his best to put Italy in the best position. And we were looking at the teams before, and Scott, particularly in terms of the depth, you mentioned it with where they were placed in the sprint in particular. We didn't have particularly high hopes for this Italian team, but we're eating our words as Braunhofer picks up the leg for Italy.
Yeah, and Braunhofer, he very much likes the pursuit dynamic, the head-to-head battle, as we see a fall.
Yep, and it's Germany, and Johannes Kuhn who's gone down and is quickly back to his feet.
Yeah, we saw a fall from the Germans in the handover at the European Champs as well. It seems to be becoming something of a pattern for the Germans, but back on their feet and hunting down what could be a good result today for the Germans, and 6th right now.
And a tangle between the Belgians as well. They've just got caught in the skis, and it's not particularly busy, Scott. You know, we've seen exchanges with a lot more traffic in it, but we've seen a fall from the Germans. The Belgians have got tangled. Switzerland getting away well with Niklas Hartvig. They're in 7th, exactly a minute behind the Norwegians.
I think the conditions are so tough out there that these biathletes, remember, 16 degrees is the temperature.
Yeah.
And even there we saw some confusion from the Ukrainians who were gesturing to one another, unclear as to why, but it seemed to be something significant communicated. These conditions are so brutal that these biathletes are exhausted.
Jonas Malachek trying to get Czechia back into the top 10. They started so well, but Viacheslav Hornig just really struggling on that final throw. And it's so hard to see without seeing the skis there, but it was exactly as the tag happened. And I can't imagine there's that much force from the tag to see Johannes Kuhn go to the ground.
No, I don't think it was that. That can't be why. I think the most likely explanation was just getting tangled in the skis and maybe complacency. A lot of teams don't practice the exchange enough, and there are precious seconds that can be claimed there. And if you think about how many head-to-head sprint finishes there are in relays, those seconds matter.
Stella Humler-Glide pursued by France and Fabienne Claude 10.7 seconds behind, and he is really eating into the gap. At Exchange 2 it was 16.7 seconds between France and Norway. Slovenia records Italy. Anton Widmar right on the shoulders of Braunhofer now.
I think Fabienne Claude might just be pushing a little too hard in the head-to-head battles. On the overall standings, he's 12th in pursuit, 15th in mass start, 9th in both the sprint and individual. So something tells me he might be going a little bit too fast on this first lap.
Lieutenant of Finland in 5th, it's Johannes Kuhn in 6th. Looking a bit further back, here's Niklas Hartweg in 7th. And well, he's eaten 3 minutes into the advantage of Stella Humler-Glide as well.
Switzerland, another team that are doing well today and could end higher than expected, with Germany and Sweden not quite doing as well as we might have expected.
Here is the Norwegian, hugging that far side, the right of the track.
That lovely tempo there from Lagride, that's emblematic of all the Norwegians.
And coming round the corner just a little bit too quickly was Fabienne Claude, who has done so well to stay on his feet there. We did wonder, we saw very early on in the races this week, there was a tumble on one of these corners. We didn't see it during the racing, but we were showing footage of it afterwards, one of the Belgium athletes. And, well, adrenaline will be coursing through the veins of the Frenchman because, well, that looked very treacherous.
Absolutely, and it's going to be, I think, really tough for Fabienne Claude to hold it together on the shooting range. We have now, with Braunhofer there in the Italian suit, he's going to be pushing very hard, perhaps too hard relative to his ski speed ability.
Johannes Kuhn has gone around the outside of the thin and is now up into 5th. Goodman just tucked in behind Braunhofer as Johannes Kuhn pushing the pace.
And Kuhn, we know he's struggled over the years with his shooting, and with 6 penalties in the pursuit competition and a standing hit rate of only 70% despite a 94% hit rate in the prone, we can expect to see some struggling there on the range for the German.
Italian starting to pull away slightly here.
Braunhofer in the European Championships finished 16th in the sprint and then won the pursuit, climbing a long way to claim that victory. He knows how to handle the head-to-head pressure. The Italians claiming 4th in the relay at the European Championships.
Another look at the blustery conditions here in Nove Mesto.
Lagride, his mouth open wide as he's gasping in the air. Fabienne Claude, he's really clawed back a lot of time, and perhaps we're going to see the consequences of that effort now. But the pressure is very much applied now on the Norwegian. It's a good start for Norway and France, and now our first miss from Lagride, and that's 2 misses now. The wind, nothing too significant to note. That is until I speak, and then all of a sudden it's gusting, but look at that, great shooting from Fabienne Claude.
And France are in the lead.
Lagride now needs to get this next shot to hang in there with France. He does, and it's going to be a gap, but not as large as it could have become.
That's for Slovenia. Italy going well. 4 for 5 so far. That's 5 for Braunhofer.
And Johannes Kuhn doing great, just as my second prediction goes out the window, with Finland having a nightmare on the range. Please don't ask me for any more predictions. That's not good. They need to get all 3 of these next spare rounds, otherwise it's a penalty loop from every miss here on out for Finland. Not a good day for Lehtinen.
They're just lacking that experience on the World Cup this season.
Oh, and it's 3 penalty loops for Finland.
Belgium with 3 misses as well. Switzerland finally away. Niklas Hartweg with his final round.
Very much Fabien Claude having now a 13.4 second gap out of the shooting range. That's interesting. But again, the dynamic is now shifted, and it will be tough for Fabien Claude to maintain. After I said it the last time, that early pace was fast, and yet he still managed to hit all the targets.
10 seconds between Italy and Germany, but things are looking good for the Italians. They have Didier Bianats on the final leg, who of course has something to prove after being left out of the squad for the World Championships in the relay.
Bianats having some great results on the World Cup in the past. He knows how to perform. It's just taking himself some time to establish. Oh, it's Czechia in front of their home crowd. They end up on the penalty loop, missing the last shot with the last spare. And then we get a chance to see where these shots landed, as Fabien Claude high right so far and resettling with great discipline there, and an edge shot at the top right, an edge shot at the top left. So all of his shots in the top half of the target, meaning he could have clicked down 2 or 3, perhaps even 4, and still been in the middle.
And still a Homer glide as well, reaching for the extra pole.
That all costing time. Perhaps we can attribute those lost seconds there for Lagride coming out the range, some of those to the missing pole.
This is Switzerland and Niklas Hartweg at 18.3 kilometres. And 1 minute and 19 seconds down. It was 1:18 when he left shooting 5, so only losing 1 second. Ukraine and Tchenko next to emerge from the tunnel. Switzerland, Ukraine and Austria all keeping themselves out of the penalty loop so far, along with Slovenia and then of course France and Norway right at the top. The Italians bouncing back, as with the Germans as well, from 1 visit to the penalty loop. And here's the leader.
Yeah, and we know that Fabien Claude struggles with his stand shooting. 77% on average, prone up at 86. And so now, with the pressure of being chased by one of the best in the world, second best in the world now as it currently stands, having lost his top spot.
Well, not much has changed in terms of the time between Fabien Claude and Stella Holmberg in the last kilometre. It has changed though further back to the Italian, who is losing ground to the German, and now risks losing the 3rd spot. Vidmar as well dropping off the back of this group. He was 42.6 seconds back at 18.3, now finds himself 48.5.
A great shot there of Hartweg coming through the woods. This camera angle really showing off that technique. in a great way. The elbows driving back, being the main force generator, as the legs are used, of course, to kick, but also to bring the body weight up. And that body weight then being dropped down onto the poles, the arms resisting that tension and putting the force through the poles into the ground to create that forward momentum. Lovely technique from Hartweg.
Fabien Claude in for his standing shoot, followed by Stella Holmgren. 14 seconds separating them.
Now, this is a big moment for the Frenchman to try and undo the stats of the past, produce fantastic shooting. The first target goes down, the second does not. And 4 out of 5 from the initial shots. The spare now being quickly loaded by Fabien Claude, as 3 targets go down for the Norwegian.
And the gap closes once again. France wants into the extra rounds. Norway clean. And Stella Holmgren has eyes pinned right onto the back of the Frenchman.
Almost as quickly as I said, the third shot went down. All 5 had gone down for Lagride there. As Kuhn, another one who struggles with the stand shooting. Taking his time to get the first shot, which he fails to get down, and the same can be said of the second. Not a good start for the German.
And it's advantage Italy. A brilliant 5 for 5 for Braunhofer.
And 2 penalty loops at the very least for the German. Johannes Kuhn having a complete meltdown. He's not hit any targets so far, and he could be looking at 5 penalty loops with this current trajectory. Finally a hit.
3. Will it be 4? One last bullet, and it is just 3. Switzerland away. But, well, Scott, we looked at this Italian team. There's still a long way to go, but it's not Italy's top team by any means. But particularly the performance of Braunhofer, he's really, really stepped up for his country today.
He absolutely has, and he's very good in these conditions. And I think we can expect to see him more and more, particularly in the head-to-head bouts as the years go by. He can hold his nerve when he's standing next to his rivals. But with Bionaz, his best result in Canmore in 2024, 11th place. He's had a 12th, he's had a 13th. He's been there or thereabouts. But exceeding our expectations so far, the Italians.
In comparison, Braunhofer hasn't finished in the top 30 this season on the World Cup. Only one top 40 finish, and that was 40th in the sprint in Oberhof.
And that's speaking as the Austrians managed to get their 5th target down. Really to the quality of the European Championships, where Braunhofer did claim a victory in the pursuit, and now failing to get into the top 30 on the World Cup. Fabien Claude holding his nerve really well on the stand shooting. He'll be relieved and handing over to one of the connoisseurs of the relay competitions, Quentin Fillon-Maillet, who gets to battle it out almost in old style. The French against the Norwegians, Johannes Tingnes-Bø against Quentin Fillon-Maillet.
And what is, of course, the final relay for Johannes Tingnes-Bø.
Who better to be head-to-head against than Quentin Fillon-Maillet? Not going to be an easy one for the Norwegian. And now this head-to-head battle on the skis between Claude and Lagride. You can see Lagride just staying in behind, content with the pace so far, and weighing up whether he does a tactical move. But of course the two leaders needing to come across the line, not who comes across first, that's not the important metric, but the two collectively. It's about how far they can stretch the lead against the others. The Italians now some way back off the lead with nearly a minute behind.
Braunhofer just inside 1 minute behind the leading pair.
Braunhofer there with a lovely dynamic technique, and despite that nice technique, he is still slowly losing seconds to the leaders. Really showing the level at the World Cup, so high.
62 seconds behind Claude and Lagride. But crucially, eyes will be on the time behind to see if Nicholas Hartweg has closed the gap, and he hasn't been able to. 0.2 of a second he's actually lost on the Italian. As the final handover, Quentin Fillon-Maillet picks up the baton for France, and Johannes Tingersbo in his final relay race on the World Cup.
Well, Fabien Claude managing to open a gap over the Norwegian, close to 5 seconds. That's a surprise. That's fantastic skiing from the Frenchman.
Well, of course, extra prize money this season for the fastest leg of the relay, and with 2 through, it is of course Fabien Claude who holds that for leg 3 at the moment.
That's challenging for those legs that start later when the conditions become slower. So now for Uldal, he'll be grateful to have gone off early.
Could Italy be on their way to a first relay podium of the season? A team that has certainly proven to be greater than the sum of its parts. But lingering and lurking just behind is the Swiss team.
Well, with Capilleri, every relay he's been in, it's been a 4th place, a 5th place, and just the 2 he's been in. As Dupasquier of Switzerland now taking the leg for the Swiss in 4th place, doing very well so far.
Only made his World Cup debut this week. And he started biathlon last season, making the leap from cross-country skiing. And, well, Scott, it's a big position he finds himself in now in 4th.
Yeah, and look at this. Quentin Fillon-Maillet is wanting to keep that lead ahead of Johannes Tingersbo, or at least make him work hard to close the gap. So far, the Norwegian unable to do so. But this is a battle that the scriptwriters certainly would have had in mind if they were to predict what would make the most interesting head-to-head of the day.
2.4 seconds between Quentin Fillon-Maillet and Johannes Tingersbo. Look at the way he's driving up that climb, Scott. That's a man on a mission.
Oh, brutal, brutal. And he pays the price for that later, but less so than any other competitor. He seems to find energy from somewhere.
So with 7 of the teams having handed over, it's still Fabien Claude with the fastest leg of leg 4, or leg 3 even. Missed out leg 4 with the gap that Claude worked so hard in the closing stages to try and up, now being completely closed by Johannes Tingersbo.
It seems like an age back till we get to the Italians. So far, well over 50% of the teams have been on the penalty loop. The wind conditions are tough, we've seen that, the wind is high, but so far among those who have not, France, Norway, Switzerland and Ukraine, and Italy, I suspect, will be very afraid of making a repeat penalty loop. They've already been round it once with their first leg.
They're able to take real advantage of the likes of Germany having to make 4 visits, Slovenia 2, Sweden 6 visits to the penalty loop and 14 extra rounds used, Czechia 2 visits. They've been the best of the rest so far. The gap back to Dupasquier is just over 20 seconds.
And the fight for bronze medal is still very open, with Ukraine having not been mentioned much, still in contention for what could be a third place today, a podium potential for them. That's 1 minute and 10 seconds behind the Italians, but look at the amount of penalty loops we've seen. So much can change in this race.
Through the icy section. And Johannes Tingersbo.
Quinto Fiormae, he makes his own rifle stocks. He's a very passionate craftsman and Lego user. And it's that crafty kind of nature, or craftsmanship, I should probably say instead of crafty, that can really lead to great coordination and ability to have control over the minor details, something or a skill that's so useful in shooting.
Position these two have been in many a time, and this is the last time, the last race that they'll experience side by side in a relay representing their nations. And France on their way, barring a complete disaster, to picking up their first relay Crystal Globe since 2012.
They look relaxed as they watch. One watches their brother, the other watches their closest rival come into the range head-to-head with arguably the man they'd least like to be in a head-to-head bout with. Quinto Fiormae, such an expert in these relay and chase scenarios. Just 10 seconds to get the first shot down for Johannes Tingersbo. No misses from either so far, with Johannes now getting the perfect 5 for 5 and Quinto Fiormae just behind him. The rifle's on and the order only shuffling by a matter of 2 seconds.
Well, it will be a brilliant battle. These final 2 laps, one more shooting stage.
Now I wonder if they will take it easy on this leg. It's not necessary for them to go so hard as they did on lap 1, when they were jostling for maintaining the gap that was opened up by Claude and closing the gap that was opened up by Claude.
The Ionats of Italy. And the last time Italy stood on a podium was in the relay, Soldier Hollow last season. Not too much difference in this team in comparison to the team that performed on that day, just Lucas Hoffer being replaced. Of course, not amongst the squad today. Daniele Capellari, the man replacing him.
First miss on the low right of the target, and now another to the low left as Switzerland join the Italian on the mat. Another miss low, so now we've seen a pattern. The shots are falling low, and the Italian does not know, but he needs to get every single remaining shot in order to stay off the loop.
And it is one penalty loop for Italy, just their second of the race. Really good shooting from the Swiss man, who has an opportunity to put Switzerland into third now.
He's got 3 spares and only 1 remaining target.
2 penalty loops for Italy. Can Switzerland stay out of the loop?
And now Produshny of Ukraine has an opening, as well as Jakob of Austria and Horn of Germany. Switzerland there with Dupasquier. He gets the last shot down with the 7th round.
And now Switzerland are into third. But look at the time difference between the Swiss and the 2 ahead of him. 2 minutes and 23 seconds. Podruchny with a miss. Patrick Jakob of Austria clean and away. Philip Horn, 5 for 5 as well.
The chasers are managing to pull it out the bag at the last time of asking in the prone. Of course, 1 stand remaining, but for Germany, Ukraine, Italy, Austria and Switzerland now all fighting for that 3rd place.
But look at that, that's the damage that can be done. Italy with 1 hand on a medal. They haven't done it this season, and now they're down in 7th, and the knock that will take to your confidence during a race, Scott, you just have to blank all of that out.
Well, especially with the stand looming, and Bionats is a 70% hit rate by athlete in the stand, and that does indicate that we can expect some misses from the Italian there too. And with his confidence knocked and needing to claw back precious seconds, I think it's going to be even harder for him to get the targets.
But a brilliant battle at the front. France have won every relay on the World Cup this season. Norway crowned world champions in Lenzerheide, and the final race as part of a relay quartet, an all-men's relay quartet for Johannes Tingersbo. 0.5 of a second separate them.
Quentin Fillon-Maillet quite happy to take the lead through this shaded forest section, where the course is ever so slightly faster, in a relative term, or less slow perhaps is the correct terminology.
Well, the crowd is so loud, you could hear the cheers for Klitschmar there. He was just in the range, he's just exited shooting 7, and you could hear the cheers for every time a shot went down.
And look how dirty the snow is there. The wax technicians not only trying to find the fastest wax, but the best wax that repels the dirt and keeps the quick wax running quick as fast as optionally possible.
And of course, this is something that will be assessed once again before the women's race later on this afternoon, because it's only going to get worse.
And this is really a scenario as Quentin Fillon-Maillet moves to the side and looks to Johannes Tingersbo as if to say, come on, your turn, as they come towards the headwind.
We know Johannes Tingersbo regularly likes to put himself in a position to lead into the range. Today, he's quite happy to let Fillon-Maillet take the lead as a gathering of the French athletes and the Norwegians as well, Talia Bo.
Fillon-Maillet should have just stopped and let Johannes Bo, if he wanted Bo to pass, just let him pass, force his hand. But Fillon-Maillet losing that little psychological battle there. And now faced with the absolute ultimate psychological battle.
The final shooting stage. France and Norway side by side for one final time this season.
The wind is down, it's almost still, and we can expect some incredibly fast shooting. A single miss now is going to be pivotal. Fillon-Maillet first to get the hit. Johannes missing at 19.
And France are away. And surely France now will win it. 2 misses for Johannes Tingersbo, who will not have a gold medal hung around his neck on his final relay race on the World Cup. It is going from bad to worse. France well away, dominant, perfect on the World Cup this season.
And we've seen that bobbing up and down so many times as the legs are shaking for Johannes Tingnes Bø. He ends up on the loop. Wow.
A disaster for Johannes Tingnes Bø. That's not how he would have wanted to bow out in the relay at all. France are away. It will be a perfect 5.
And the speed Quentin Fillon-Maillet got those targets down was intimidating. And I suspect Johannes Tingnes Bø, with that last final shot, sensed the urgency of the moment, took a risk, but that risk did not pay off.
Well, we saw it with his brother, didn't we? The same thing happening to Tallier. He was able to stay out of the penalty loop, but he was really stuck, wasn't he, on a couple of occasions, particularly in the stand. France, on the other hand, and Fillon-Maillet more than holding his nerve.
And that shot there on the very low right of the target, an edge shot, but it was so fast. It was 1.1, 1.2, 1.7 seconds between shots. It almost, as soon as I looked over at Johannes, the rest of the shots went down, and just a class act from the Frenchman.
Tallier Bø's face paints a picture there, doesn't it? As the Frenchmen celebrate either side, and the hugs immediately for Oscar Lombardo in the team for the very first time this season, and celebrated for his effort.
And now I'm so excited to see this battle for third. It's going to be potentially promising some more drama. 4 teams very much in contention for the third place.
And only 4 teams have finished on the podium so far this season: France, Norway, Sweden and Germany. And the pressure on the Swiss man.
Can Italy and Germany redeem themselves after being around that loop 3 times for Italy and 4 times for Germany?
Switzerland starting with 2 misses. That's a 3rd miss for Dupasquier. Italy miss. Germany not out of this yet, but Ukraine are going very well indeed. Everyone having to go to the extra round. Switzerland well out of the battle now. It's at least 2 times around the penalty loop. That's 3. Ukraine into the driving seat.
Wow.
They'll be pursued by Germany, and the battle for the bronze medal will continue around this final lap.
Pedrushny is not going to be pleased to hear that Horn is in pursuit, and only 4.4 seconds down off the Ukrainian. So this is going to be a battle for third.
Vietnam stuck. He's now away, but has to go 300 metres around the penalty loop. Austria having to go into the extra rounds as well. They have to stay perfect. A miss on the first field. Slovenia. Pedrushny, though, in the battle with Philipp Horn. And of those who have left shooting 8, only Ukraine and France staying out of the penalty loop.
Samuelson now not in the place he'd have expected to be in. Coming into the range in 9th, 4 minutes 28 back.
But more than comfortable this final lap will be for Quentin Fillon-Maillet, who can soak it up. Well, Scott, at the start of the season, when France took that hugely important win in Contiolate, they wouldn't have dreamed that they'd do it 5 times and remain unbeaten this season. This is an incredible feat from the French team.
And it really solidifies what is in the mind of so many spectators and the coaches, the teams. They all know that France is the future of biathlon as it currently stands. They've just done so wonderfully at every single level of IBU competition this year.
And not to be for Johannes Tingnes Bø and his brother Tallier on their final relay race. They will stand on the podium. It will only be second, though. They had their moment, though, didn't they, Scott? It was brilliant to watch that final lap of Johannes in in Lenzerheide, and I mean, I could watch that over and over again. It was pure entertainment, flying around the corners, engaging with the crowd and the cameras, engaging, of course, with that man as well, Quentin Fillon-Maillet, in that fist bump, a photo that will be in the history books forever. But it is all about France. It is all about a nation that has risen to the top this season, unbeaten on the World Cup, 5 out of 5. A rotated French team, but they do it again. A first relay crystal globe since 2012. A truly impressive feat, unbeaten all season on the World Cup. Now enjoying his final lap, Johannes Tingesbø couldn't deliver Norway the gold.
But now taking some time to be clapped and cheered over the finish line by the crowd who loves this man and have done for so long. He's really brought so much to the sport.
Well, they will be so sad to see him depart at the end of the season. A shrug of the shoulders. A physical and mental battle between Norway and France, and only enough for second today. We'll soak up the final few strides. Taking his time, Johannes Tingesbø in his final relay race for Norway. Will be met by his brother. Both will retire at the end of the season. They can't go out on top of the World Cup. France have done something truly remarkable. The newly crowned world champions beaten here by the team they've been unable to defeat all season. A smile though on the face of Johannes Tingesbø. You can tell, Scott, he's just soaking up every moment.
He is, and it's so nice for the likes of Uldal and Lombardo, first timers on the first and second team here, and they can enjoy this moment too. First and second place, satisfactory for sure for either team.
And here is the battle, or maybe not so much battle, as we see Dmitry Podruchny pushing towards the line. He's urged on. There's no one else in sight. Ukraine will be on the podium for the first time this season. Dmitry Podruchny with a hugely important final leg. No visits to the penalty loop, just 7 extra rounds used, and Ukraine shake things up on the podium. Well, what a performance that is, Scott, from that quartet. So many falling along the wayside today, so many errors, and Ukraine taking full advantage.
Yeah, they had a fantastic race, and it was the cool head of Podruchny on the final stand shoot. You could see that he was able to withstand the wind conditions better than any of his rivals, with Jacob struggling, Bianats struggling, and Horn, although doing well, unable to match the Ukrainian in terms of ski speed around the final loop.
The quartet of Artem Tkachenko, Vitaly Manzin, Anton Tkachenko and Dmitry Podruchny.
And the biathletes now looking over their shoulders to determine whether they need to work hard or just take their foot off the gas. That being because these conditions are so hard that they have caused the biathletes to struggle so much, particularly in stand, where they've been squatting and taking their time, changing their rhythm.
Round of applause from Patrick Jakob, who brings Austria across the line in 5th. Well, Scott, when you look at what France have done, a truly remarkable feat. 6 different athletes used this season. They've rotated, and every time they rotated, you thought maybe today Norway could do something. Maybe today Norway will knock down this brilliant record that France have started to build. A whole season undefeated, though, that is no mean feat. No,
for sure, and it's a challenging one emotionally, and it seems like Italy will experience this now as Sweden crossed the line, managing to win in a skis competition over Slovenia, with Sebastian Samuelsson really taking that in. But my saddest moment now is for the Italians, having done so well, really expecting them to come across the line a bit higher, but those 2 penalty loops just at the very end with Biathlon were unrecoverable, but they weren't even expecting to do that well today, as we could see from the team they put forward.
Czechia pushing to make sure they finish ahead of Bulgaria. Kretschmar on this final leg, and he has done more than enough to be able to take a look over the shoulder and soak up the atmosphere from a very passionate home crowd. And when you look at how many were forced into the penalty loop today, Scott, and then you look at France's record, no penalty loops and just 4 extra rounds used. What France did today as well, we talk about what they did on a season as a whole, but today the only team that were close were Ukraine in terms of the record in the range, and they had to dip into the extra round 7 times. The only team outside of them, Patrick Jakob and Austria, 10 extra rounds used between their team, also staying out of the penalty loop, and Romania as well. It truly is. It's just incredible to look at that shooting record and what they did on the skis today.
Yeah, the conditions were tough. They were blowing hard and then they went soft again, and that making the prone difficult, because it's hard to know at any given moment whether you need to adjust or wait until there's a gap in the wind. But the French handling that easily, and in part due to the fact that there is actually some blocks or a wall essentially on the right hand side of the range that makes the earlier shooting mats a little bit easier to contend with. The further down the range you go, the more that wind is felt. But of course the skill component being the largest mover there, with the French being able to handle changing wind just by virtue of their collective ability.
Well, Poland have done really well to drag themselves back up, forced into the penalty loop 2 occasions very early on, and their record 3 penalty loops and 11 extra rounds. We have 4 lap teams, but Poland ensuring they weren't lapped at 2 DNSs. Wojciech Skolusa coming towards the finish line as our last athlete who will cross the line. Quentin Fillmaier with the fastest leg 4 time. Philip Horn with the 2nd fastest, and Produchnik with the 3rd. Fabien Claude able to hold on to the fastest leg 2 time. Marcel Jacquemin and of course Martin Oldal, the others who will take extra prize money for their individual leg efforts today. The perfect 5 for France, undefeated on the World Cup this season. And Quentin Fillmaier bringing it home once again on the day that they will lift the relay crystal globe for the first time since 2012. And a closer look at the results there. France with an incredibly good performance today to make it 5 out of 5. Only 4 extra rounds used, avoiding the penalty loop. Norway once into the loop with 8 extra rounds used. Ukraine on the podium for the first time this season, taking a brilliant bronze medal.
One of the star performers today, Fabien Claude. For me, managing to hold back some of the pressure moments. And the fastest course time on the skis ahead of Lona of Sweden, who was trying to pull back time.
Taking a quick look back at the race from the Ukrainian team, their first medal on the World Cup since the 2019-20 season, and that was here that they took that silver medal. Only enough in the final relay race for Talia Bo and Johanna Tinger's boat for Norway to secure the silver medal. All coming down to the final shoot. A changed team, but a consistent mindset. France, 5 out of 5 on the World Cup. But playing Norway's game for so long, 7 years in a row, they've taken the relay crystal globe. They've won it 15 times in total. And France ensuring that on the final day, and the day that they will lift the crystal globe, they finish on top spot once again.
Congratulations! It was an amazing battle today. Tell us about the final shooting.
It was a stressful start, starting with Johannes. I know we will a tough race. We ski together on the 2 first loop, clean shooting on the first shooting and prom. And after the hard fight will be on the standing. And I attack this shooting, and I know it will be tough, and surprised to don't go out to the shooting range with Johannes. I finally this is a victory. It's a great day for French team because we win the overall of the relay with 5 wins and 1 second place. It's just amazing. Thank you for my teammates, all the waxmen, the coach, the physio, and it was an amazing season in relay.
You did an amazing job together with your team. Congratulations.
Yeah, a lot of pressure. My teammate do a great job. He put me pressure and starting on the lead with Johannes. Finally, this is a good day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
First time I remember Quentin Fillon-Maillet battle out against Johannes was in 2016-17 season in Antolz in the mass start. Fillon-Maillet losing by 3.7 seconds, and that was really the first time we saw him rising to the top of the international game. That was starting bib 17 at the time.
And confirmation of the World Cup relay score for the men. After 5 races, France on top and will receive the relay crystal globe. First time since 2012. Well, a perfect season for France Scott, and particularly when, as we spoke about earlier on in the race, with it being such a big season of transition for the Norwegians next season, could we see France go on the kind of run that we saw Norway go before the start of this season?
I think already in the barrel loaded is another set of very talented Norwegians who very much stand to contend with France. Equally competitive, equally talented, and I suspect it will be a neck and neck battle next year as well for the French male team.
There's the updated Men's Nations Cup score. France on top after 22 races. And, well, Scott, we can see, going through the picture, plenty of the wax techs, they are going to have their work cut out for the next hour or so before the women come out.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. They'll know roughly what's working based on what was working for the men's race, but of course, the conditions being so hot, still well and truly over 10 degrees, meaning that they will start with what works before, experiment with something a little different, but they need to figure out what's going to repel the dirt through the forest sections of the tracks where it's becoming very brown under ski.